Oh yeah, she was a murderer.
Nice.
I mean, that fits right in with Evil Aunt Crystal.
Nice.
Evil Aunt Crystal filed false CPS claims because she sucks.
What the hell, Evil Aunt Crystal?
Yeah.
It was not good.
Nope.
My name is KJ, and you're listening to the Supernatural Opinions podcast, where some things in this world are supernatural. My pronouns are she, they, and this is the podcast where I talk to my fellow Supernatural fans about Supernatural, and we share our Supernatural opinions.
Today we're recapping Season 2, Episode 7, The Usual Suspects, which originally aired on November 9th, 2006. And here to help me do that are my guests of the week, Meredith, Rivera, and Moira. Meredith, remind everybody who you are.
Hello, I'm Meredith. My pronouns are she and her, and as usual, I am tired.
Yeah, that is how we are going to expect you. We hope one day you'll be less tired, but that day has not arrived, and it's not today.
But it is not this day.
And Rivera, this is your first time on the show, so introduce yourself a little bit.
Okay, hi, I'm Rivera. I use any pronouns. My TikTok is Demon Dean's Bitch. You know, just cuz.
That is an awesome name.
It is awesome,
Yeah.
and you make some great
That's about
TikToks.
I respect you.
And Moira, you were just here last week for the listeners. It was not last week for us, but remind everyone who you are anyways.
So, I'm Moira, my pronouns are she and her, and I'm really excited to be back again.
This week's episode will contain spoilers for this episode and may reference previous episodes, but will not contain spoilers for later episodes of Supernatural. This week's episode is titled The Usual Suspects, and that's a reference to the 1995 film starring Kevin Spacey, whose character Roger Verbal Clint? I don't know if I wrote that name down right.
I've never seen the movie, so I can't help you.
I don't know.
I wrote Kint in my notes, but that seems like a
I haven't
odd
seen it
choice.
either.
Anyway, is a con man telling interrogators how he came to be one of two survivors of a massacre and a fire. I guess that
That kind of fits.
fits this episode.
Kind of tracks, I guess.
But this week's episode was written by Katherine Humphries and directed by Mike Roll. Humphries wrote on Season 1 for the episode Dead Man's Blood, and she was also the writer of the infamous Siren episode in Season 4, so
Oh gosh.
yeah, good times.
Both of those are fantastic episodes.
Yes,
so-
very good. And then this is the first of Mike Roll's 10 times directing Supernatural. He spent about 6 years periodically directing Supernatural and Smallville. You know, the show loves to have crossover with Smallville. And some of his other work includes the Princess Switch movies. I think there's like 3 of those now. 12 episodes of One Calls the Heart, and 2 episodes of Shadowhunters, The Mortal Instruments, which, I'll be honest, I thought Shadowhunters and The Mortal Instruments were 2 separate shows. Apparently they're not. It's Shadowhunters : The Mortal Instruments.
If you mention that show around my little sister, she will get so mad because she's read the books.
I've heard that the books and the show do not correspond. We're gonna get right into the recap, I think, because I have a lot of recap to get through.
Mm-hmm.
We start off in Baltimore, Maryland, at a police precinct where a detective is on the phone and receiving a fax, and he's really impressed with an alias being used. And then we see like a flash of a SWAT team at a motel, and then the detective sits down in the interrogation room, and it's revealed that the man who was already arrested is Dean Winchester, and that the SWAT team is arresting Sam. So we're high stakes right off the bat.
Yes,
Yeah, just-
it is exciting.
This did kind of remind me a little bit of the intro cold open for the episode Skin in Season 1, which was like 1 season plus 1 episode ago, where we saw Dean getting arrested by a SWAT team at the opening of that. I was like, this is the vibe.
You know, I really
I
love
think it was
episodes.
supposed to be like a parallel.
I think so.
Probably. I really love episodes where the Winchesters like do interact with the law, because we're seeing them from like an outside perspective, and turns out from an outside perspective they're really terrifying.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's a
literally.
big scene. This is like the first episode of this season that is really getting into that plot line of them being wanted by the police.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, you know, a bit of a plot line in Season 1, and then, you know, like this really kicks off Season 2. This is going to be a recurring thing.
And like the police want them for several very good reasons.
Yeah. My notes sometimes don't make any sense to me. I said, Dean's suspected of another murder. This is a great cold open. Dean's cheeks are sharp just before the title card.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
No, yeah, that
I
tracks.
love that description, you know?
All of
Flaunting
that is
those
true.
cheekbones.
All of those
I
things
have
are
to say,
true.
he looks so good in that episode. So
Yeah, he looks really good this week. And then Sam is with a lady detective, Detective Diana Ballard, played by Linda Blair, who became famous for her lead role as Regan McNeil in The Exorcist in her early teens.
And that's one of the few horror movies you've actually seen,
Yes,
right?
yes, it is.
This is a very special episode, everyone.
Yeah, one where I actually got the reference.
Incredible.
There were so many references. Catherine Humphries really, like, I was side-googling left and right. I literally have in my notes at some point in this document, like, she needs to stop with the references because I can't keep side-googling. Took me so long to do these notes. Sam is shocked that Dean's being held for murder, which shouldn't be that shocking.
Really shouldn't.
And he argues a bit about being held without charges, but Detective Diana has a file to remind Sam that he was a pre-law student at freaking Stanford. He knows full well that they can be held for 48 hours without being charged.
Whoops.
That seems like, I don't know, like a slight flaw in the legal system, in my opinion, but it's not my legal system, so...
It's not perfect.
I just think I was extra sensitive because this is Baltimore, Maryland, which is the same city as the infamous Case from the Serial podcast, which is like one of the original big true crime podcasts about a potential wrongful conviction.
Ooh.
So yeah, I feel like I was just like, woo, Baltimore.
Sorry, but every time I hear anything about the American legal system, it does sound like a very flawed system.
Oh, I don't know if there's a right answer to any
Not
legal
wrong.
system. It's all complicated, but yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
As someone who's pretty well acquainted with the Canadian justice system, because I studied criminal justice for 4 years.
Exactly. Like, the little I do know about our justice system, they're all flawed. I was
all
just talking
flawed,
about
yeah.
the American one specifically.
Yeah, there's some problems.
Especially if you used to be, like, a colony of a European empire, there's going to be a lot of racism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Anyway,
Winchesters.
back to Detective Diana. She has a really helpful
Moving
folder on Sam. Sam's 23 with no home, no job, and no prospects.
Oh gosh. That is so close to me. I have a home. That's the only difference.
I'm about to be 23. I have a home, I have a job, I have no prospects.
There we go.
Oh gosh. Yeah, feeling like a single woman in Jane Austen times. I have no money and no prospects.
I'm already a burden to my parents.
I love it.
Sam's mom is dead, and his dad is technically missing. John died in the hospital. There should really be a record of that, but apparently
Yeah.
there isn't one.
They just picked the one room where no one goes.
Yeah, and like none of the doctors like took any note of that. Like they were doing full like life-saving measures. They ran a full code on John Winchester. I don't know why there's no record that he's dead.
This means that Sam and Dean got the dead body out of the hospital without anyone noticing. Why didn't we see that?
Literally, we
That
saw
would've
them
been-
I
burning
want to
it.
know how they did that, like through the hallways and everything.
Literally.
Like, that means they would have had to dress up and get disguises and a gurney, and we didn't get to see that. I feel robbed.
I agree.
Yeah.
While mourning their father.
Anyway, I literally wrote my notes so we don't have time to think about that too hard, but apparently we found the time. She says that there are reports of Dean's demise in St. Louis back in the episode Skin that were, like, quote-unquote exaggerated because they've arrested Dean. And Sam was apparently a straight-A student, not in John's journal, he's not, but I'm proud of in canon Sam for his impossible full ride to Stanford.
Yeah.
In John's journal, which, again, is not technically canon, Sam got held back a grade because they moved around so much.
That doesn't surprise me.
The
Yeah.
person who wrote that journal was actually thinking about consequences.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
More than the show a lot of the time.
They were thinking realistically.
Yeah. Sam does not want to talk about Jessica, but he is happy to talk about the second largest ball of twine in the continental US. I recall that this was also referenced again in a season 7 episode as something John took them to like twice as kids.
Nice.
This is something Sam is familiar with.
He knows that ball of twine.
Weird.
Take your kids, if you're going to take your kids twice to see a monument, maybe like the largest ball, not the second largest, but that's just me.
Maybe pick a
It just
different
shows how
monument.
terrible John is, I think.
Yeah, I feel like, like he just forgot that he took them the first time.
Yeah.
Sam's in like little like mini lawyer mode over Dean's fingerprint evidence, and she's like, "What will happen when we run your prints?" And Sam's like, "Gee, I find out, I guess."
I don't know. doesn't happen to me very often.
And she tries to convince Sam to flip on Dean, and that's when Sam learns that the murdered person in question is Karen Giles.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, that's not great, because that's who they were here to help. So the fact that she is dead and that they're accused of her murder are both news to Sam. Sam tells Detective Diana that his dad knew Tony Giles, but really they just picked up his case from the newspaper, and we go back in time to see them, and Sam's hair is looking very, differently tousled here. It's like a whisper of the hair's future potential. It's not his usual season 2 look, but it's like a whisper of, what's to come.
It's foreshadowing.
And Tony is Anthony Giles, and that might be a reference to Anthony Head, who plays Rupert Giles on Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
I didn't either, but IMDb said that was a possibility, and I choose to believe it.
Valid.
Sam and Dean are arguing over which of them is Mulder and which is Scully. Meredith, resident X-Files expert, which one is the Mulder and which one's the Scully?
They share.
Because they're both alternating team case and team no case, which I assume is the X-Files equivalent of aliens are real and aliens aren't real, right?
Oh, it is. Yeah, they share. There isn't really a clear-cut one.
Good to know. I thought we would just check in, because they are very adamant that neither of them were the Scully. Is Scully the believer or the non-believer?
Scully is the non-believer. She is a woman of science.
I love that.
If there was a motto for this show, it would be Mulder, no!
I love it.
Sam and Dean then pose as insurance agents to talk to Karen Giles. I don't know why I said it with a different G.
It's to spice things up.
I think it was because I was getting prepared to say Keegan Connor Tracy, which is the actress that plays Karen. This is her first appearance on Supernatural. She plays 3 different characters on this show, including Chuck's agent and random witch.
I love that.
Yeah.
Good for her.
She's also the Blue Fairy in Once Upon a Time, Belle in the Descendants franchise, a scout leader in a series of unfortunate events, and Evil Ann Crystal in Heartland, as well as a bunch of other roles. But those are all the things I've personally seen her in.
She was in an episode of Psych.
Excellent. Love that there's more crossover with Psych.
Oh yeah, she was a murderer.
Nice.
I mean, that fits right in with Evil Ann Crystal.
Nice.
Evil Ann Crystal filed false CPS claims because she sucks.
What the hell, Evil Ann Crystal?
Yeah.
It was not good.
No. Dean gets a little bit pushy with the anything weird line of questioning, but Karen's like, Tony had a nightmare before he died, I guess. That's kind of weird. Where he saw a woman standing over them. I think she specified red eyes. I don't know. Nightmares are weird.
Especially when they involve people staring at you.
Yeah. Detective Dye is not buying that. A witness saw them breaking into Tony's office, and Sam's like, well, Karen asked us to go pick up some stuff, and Karen is conveniently dead and unable to fail to corroborate any of this story.
What a shame.
She gave us the key.
Yeah, of course, the key. And she's too dead to say, these people claim to be insurance people. They didn't know my husband.
Whoops.
Dean finds some pages in the printer.
We didn't pick the lock.
Literally. Dean finds some pages in the printer that say Dana Schultz over and over and over again, and the boys are going with this theory of vengeful spirit. And Dean makes a Shining reference.
Woohoo.
It's not the only Shining reference. Yeah.
It's the most obvious Shining reference.
Yeah. Sam notices the name Dana Schultz is also written on the glass desk, someone had wrote on it a mirror, a fogged up mirror with their finger. The boys can't find anything on Dana Schultz, and so Sam is trying to crack Tony's computer password, and Dean gets bored and just starts annoying Sam because he's got ADHD, and he goes back to Karen's instead because Sam's please just leave.
What a mood.
And then Sam says that he went back to the motel, and Detective Dana says that they knew that Sam was there because Dean had the motel matchbook in his pocket. Sam was concerned for a minute. He's like, Dean would never rat me out. How did you know where I was? It's probably the only local matchbook, but I guarantee Sam and Dean each have about 6 to 20 matchbooks from different motels each. 40.
They just collect them like little bottles of shampoo.
At all times, literally.
Yeah.
Sam says that Dean didn't murder Karen, and that Detective Diana is like, well, Karen called 911 and she was terrified, and now she's dead, and your brother was there. I don't know what to tell you.
That's awkward.
Yeah. We then are with Karen, I think, and she sees a blonde woman matching the description of her husband's nightmare, and she goes upstairs absolutely terrified to call for help from her bedroom, and her phone disconnects, the lights start flickering, and her printer starts printing out Dana Schultz over and over and over, just like Tony's office.
Should probably note that the blonde woman looked like she had just crawled out of a grave and she was covered in blood.
Yeah, she was bloody.
Indeed.
It was pretty bad.
She was scary looking.
Yeah.
It's exactly what you don't want to see in your house.
Yeah, also, shout out to the special effects makeup people. You guys did a great job.
Yes, indeed. That was great.
Karen gets into her closet with a flashlight, and then she turns around and the ghost is like right there because ghosts don't care about closets.
It's like, ah!
Dean then arrives, and when Karen doesn't answer the door, he breaks in, which is bad. He finds Karen in the bedroom. Her throat is cut just like her husband, and it's like pretty bad. And he picks up the paper with his bare hands because who cares about fingerprints? And he notices some bruising on Karen's wrists, but then he's arrested, standing over her body, because again, she'd already called 911 before, and he just arrived between that call and